And oh, there it is. Boom. The boom didn't work for me that time. Hey, that happens. Good to see you. Hey, welcome everybody. We are live. Boom. The boom was for live. That's what we are. We're live right now. Red TV and Conversation. I'm Peter Clark. I'm so glad that you are joining me right this very second. You watching right here. I appreciate it. If you're here for the very first time, thank you so much. I super appreciate that. And if you came back, you already know what you're in for. So I really appreciate that. I really super appreciate it. I'm going to put along the bottom here. I've been told by some friends to do this, including my guest here, by the way. I never ask people this, but I'm going to ask for the very first time in my entire life of doing these things. I think I've done 150 of these things. I'm not sure exactly how many, but I never ask people to follow or share. I don't know why. Listen, I love promoting other people. I'm terrible at promoting myself. I'm just telling you straight out. So if you feel like that, if you feel like that for yourself, you're not alone. I feel like that. So, hey, but if you like this stuff, if you like what we're doing here, please follow and share. How about that? There you go. Got it out of my system. Listen, pretty pumped today because I love meeting new people. I met this guy and look at the name. So you guys dig into that for a bit. I met this guy in Clubhouse of all places. That's the audio app. If you've not known what that is, just go check it out. Too hard to explain, but long story short, it's a great place to connect with people. And he was having this great conversation with a couple of his, his partners and a co-author of his. And we had like 5 minutes together and we just clicked. It was just super cool. So listen, without further ado here, we're talking about coach, author, speaker, facilitator. This guy is an expert, okay? Expert, human capital management, performance improvement and change management. All of that. That's what he does. Lived and worked in 4 continents and speaks multiple languages. I'm working on this one right now. He speaks 4 of these things. Now get this, in his past, he comes from performing arts and media, and he was actually, from what I understand, a drill instructor in the military. Yes, drill sergeant, that guy. He did that. Youth soccer coach, husband, father. And you know what? This guy absolutely loves quotes. When he talks, he always uses quotes. And we're going to test him on this later on. He doesn't know this yet, but we're going to test him in the very near future here. Please welcome 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 𝗖𝗹𝗿𝗲𝗲. See, you got that right. How are you?
You passed the first test, Peter.
𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵. I was saying that all day long today. I love it. If I had a name like that, I'd run a part of the world. I really would. Good to see you, my friend.
It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does. Well, yours. That's for sure. I love it. Listen, good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Just a pleasure to connect again, because we connected on Clubhouse. We started having a conversation offline, and then while we were having that conversation, I was like, God, I should have hit just record and had a live show. And I said, let's stop it there because we have just so much to talk about. So I super appreciate you wanting to come back and join me, and really appreciate that. Let's start with something real simple here. First of all, you and your family, everyone good? Everyone healthy?
Everyone is healthy. Everyone is healthy. Thank God. We're in a good place. All things considered, we're probably better off than 99.9% of the population.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to put up a little moniker here for everybody to know right now. Everyone refers to you as Coach Con, but I'm going to throw it up there just then. We'll talk about how you got that in a little bit. But Coach Con, so I'm going to go with that a little bit. I'm going to call you Con. Hey, it's all fantastic. But I just want to put that up for people to know how to get a hold of this guy. LinkedIn. If we're out on LinkedIn right now, we're live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. And hey, whatever the kids are doing out there, it's probably that.com. But right now, if you're on LinkedIn, please connect with Coach Con and reach out to him, find out a little bit more about him. In these kind of conversations that I have with people, I don't dig in to a whole bunch of, but you can read what they do. I want you to go out to their profile, connect with them, find out what they do. We're going to touch on so many subjects today. So I already warned my good friend friend, that we're going to stroll and move along really, really quick, which is good. So there is the link that you can reach Con, and there's his website, Fresh Biz Solutions. So just to put things in context for people as we kind of start moving forward really, really quickly here, let's talk about like what, generally speaking, there's 750 million people on this platform on LinkedIn. I'm going to assume few of them don't know me or you. That's
a fair assumption.
That's a fair assessment right there. So tell us a little bit about Fresh Biz Solutions, and we'll go just to put it in the context of what that is and what you do.
Thank you. Great opportunity for that. Now, we talk about human capital management as a process, and that's basically what Fresh Biz Solutions is about. It's about providing these kind of services to mid and large companies. What we're talking about is basically talent management. How do we attract? How do we retain? How do we develop the people that are going to help us execute our strategy? How are we going to get the most out of the most important resource that an organization has? And that's its people. That's the differentiator. So that could involve training. It could involve coaching. It could involve developing the systems that people can flourish in, and helping your leaders at all levels be able to be their best and help their team get to their best performance. Can we move the needle? Can we help them really achieve their goals while at the same time helping the organization achieve their goals? That's a win-win in my book.
Fantastic. And again, so you work with multiple verticals of businesses, I know, and you've worked internationally. We talked about that. You worked in, seriously, I did my research. I try to find all these things out, but I'm just going to be honest with you. Where are the 4 places that you lived? You said 4 continents, so which means you probably popped around. So I'm going to assume Greece, of course, right?
So Greece and Europe.
It looked like it looked Irish to me, but but tell us those 4 places.
Well, Australia was the first one because I was born there. So I was born in Australia to parents that had immigrated there back in the 60s to kind of carve out their own life and their own future from there. So I was born there, spent the first part of my life there, started growing up into my teens there. My parents went back to Greece, so I started experiencing a lot of my life there. At some point, I started traveling for work and worked on cruise ships, and I ended up traveling a lot of places, including Central and South America. And then basically settled here 25 years ago in the States. And since then, I've carved out my life here. And this has become home for us. And this is where we've basically base camped to help wherever we can.
Oh, fantastic. So there you popped around. You've been around the world, my friend. You've been around the world. So that's fantastic. I appreciate you kind of clearing that up for me and so on. Hey, listen, I just want to let you know, this is live. And I just had a signal here from my service, my streaming service here, that says they're having a hard time getting out to LinkedIn. Now, if that's the case, I apologize. If that's happening right now, Con, of course, we're live across all kinds of different platforms. So we'll definitely be able to replay this. I'm just going to ask anyone out there right now, if you are having problems to see this on LinkedIn, if you are seeing it on LinkedIn, can you just put it in the comments for me right now, just so that I kind of know, and so that Con knows and who we're talking to. But hey, listen, we got some people in the house here. Tim, good to see you, my friend. Tim is another live stream producer, Con, so he's doing his thing. Wendy, always good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Who else is popping in here? And let's see, so much going on. Let's see, Wendy, and I think what's happening right now, some of the comments aren't coming up right now, Con. So I just want to let you know that, because I know a lot of people were pretty pumped that you're coming on the show. And I was like, I'm going to see a whole bunch of people that I know. So anyway, I just want to let you know that was going on. Super appreciate you telling me about that. So that's great about, the background from your family and so on. Now I have to start with this because I've asked so many different people from so many different verticals of business, whether it's music business or sports or just right across the broad spectrum of verticals of business. You've worked with some leaders, a ton of leaders in this world. I just want to know, tell me your definition. What is leadership to you? What is leadership?
So there's a lot of different ways that I look at leadership. And since you mentioned me as somebody who loves quotes, let's start throwing some of them out there.
All right,
To me, one of the best ways that I define leadership is, if you think you're a leader, look behind you. If nobody's following, you're just out for a walk. So that is where I would start with that piece. Leadership implies action. It implies that people are buying into your vision, what you're trying to do, the direction that you're going in, and are willing to come with you on that journey. But more than anything, to me, I also embrace the concept of a servant leader, the concept of somebody who is there to essentially remove the obstacles so his or her team can execute. My mantra with Fresh Biz Solutions is hire hard, train smart, manage easy.
Wow. Oh, I think his connection is stuck right this second, everybody, just so you know. Con, are you still with us? This happens, everybody, just so you know. It's called live. That's why it's called live. I've lost his connection here. Con, are you still with me, my friend? No, he's frozen there. There you go. See, everybody, we just lost him. That's okay. Hey, listen, this is live. That's what happens when it's live. It's all good. So what I'm going to do right now, we're just going to wait for him to come back. It's all good. He's going to pop in back in a second here. Yeah, we're just talking leadership today. We're talking about lots of different things today, but we just started talking about what leadership is. Our guest today, let's talk about that. We're going to talk to, of course, KON APOSTOLOPOULOS. He's an author of a book called 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis. He's a co-author, actually. And so there is another author involved. I'll let him introduce that person and connect with him and so on. And yeah, we had so much to kind of go over here with these 7 keys to navigating a crisis. Now, the reason why I thought it was really, really cool to bring on someone like KON today was, let's face it, we've been through the last 15, 16, 18 months of something that's really traumatic in the world. And it's been hard on business. It's been hard on people's families. It's been hard. It's been life and death situation for a lot of people. So there is a lot of a crisis out there, if you will. So whether it's your professional, whether it's your business, whether it affected your work environment, whether it affected your family and your home life, navigating these crises is so important. So one of the things that I wanted to bring KON on to talk about was, again, these 7 keys, and he's put together this book again with a co-author, and really it's a very what I like about it, it's a very how-to, very simple book, and it's simple in the sense of it's very straightforward of giving you some advice and some tactics, if you will, and then just gives you some things that you can actually apply immediately. So it's a very simple read. It's very simple to move forward with again, following through a process to help you, navigate a crisis that you might be dealing with right now. So I'm still trying to get KON on right this very second as we speak here. So stay with me, everybody. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to just remove him completely. I'm just waiting for him to come back onto this screen here. So stick around with me, and let's just see if the comments are still showing so good, everybody. Yeah, okay, great. We're still seeing it. Something strange is going on. Something strange is going on right now, because I'm seeing all kinds of comments, and yet I'm being told that we're not going out to LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're watching right now, listen, I love it. Let's see. I'm going down here. Renuka Mohan, thank you. Appreciate that. Video is working on Facebook. Okay, that's good. I do see a LinkedIn user. Great to see looping happening, but it seems to be working now. Okay, great. Appreciate that. Hi. Hey, Brian. Good to see you, my friend. Appreciate that. Really appreciate you tuning in. That's fantastic. Super. And yes, here we go. Yes, it's working on LinkedIn again, so I appreciate that. Okay, so let's see. I'm waiting for KON here. Out for a walk. I love that. Yeah, it's true. Just out for a walk if no one's following you. I know. That was a really cool one-liner. That was the first line he got in here. So love that. And thank you. Yeah, crisis. Good job in navigating a mini crisis with technology. Thank you. Yeah, and this is what happens here. Let me just see if I can get KON in here now. KON, can you hear me, my friend?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we don't have a picture for you, just so you know.
So let me see if I can adjust some of that on my end and see how we can go with this.
Yeah, listen. One thing I try not to do, and I just don't, because there you go. Look, Rockstar. Here you go, buddy.
So we have to do the same thing that we preach, right? Navigate within a crisis. So this was a little mini crisis for us, right?
That was a mini crisis. It threw me for like 3 seconds, and then I was like, okay, hold on, I gotta kind of babble a little bit. I don't like babbling, I'm not, I can when I'm at the bar with somebody, but I had because you were just rocking and rolling with this great thing about leadership, and
there we go.
When no one's following you, and I was like, "Where are we?" Anyway, so hey, let's just pick it up from where we were talking about
Okay.
leadership. And again, you just talked about it. If you look behind you and no one's following you, that is a great insight for definition. But you talked about the idea that about people following you. Is that a signal for a good leader? I mean, do you have to have followers to be a good leader? I just want to follow up with that.
Well, there's an implied piece with that. There's an implied sense that if you're leading a group of people, you're leading others. It means that people are willing to follow you. It doesn't mean that they're all followers, because a good leader at the same time tries to create more leaders. They're not aspiring to create followers. They're trying to create more leaders. So at any given time within an effective team, the most qualified person can pick up and lead. But you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to follow somebody who's in a better position than you to be that. And that brings us to that point about servant leadership. I mean, we talk about that. That's a concept that exists out there, and it has existed for a few decades now. But what is it? It's essentially being able to remove the obstacles so your team can do the job. Set them on the right course, create that vision, give them the tools to do their job, and get the heck out of their way. Help them be effective, empower them. And that's what a good servant leader does. So let's keep expanding that. I mean, nowadays, what are people looking from leaders? They're looking for empathy. They're looking for ways that people understand. They are tired of people just telling them what to do. In many ways, I mean, Steve Jobs famously was quoted as saying, "We don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do."
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Before you expand on leadership, because I am going to tag on to, and you're kind of going in that direction. So I just want to bring this up to you as well. So again, you've worked with so many different kinds of leaders in all kinds of different verticals of business and so on. So talk about some of the traits. Talk about some of the traits that you've seen. What are some of the traits that you've seen in great leaders, or what do you consider good traits to be found in leaders?
And here's the caveat, because this is where our biases come in, because the way that the things that we appreciate in leaders are the things that we gravitate towards when we find others. So, for example, if I appreciate empathy, like we were talking about, I'm going to gravitate towards a more empathetic leader and try to use that as a role model. If I appreciate competence in my leaders, I'm going to try to be the best I can be at what I'm doing at my craft in order to inspire others. If I'm looking for character, somebody who's honest, who's authentic, and that's something that I appreciate, chances are I look for that in myself. I look for that in the leader that I'm willing to partner with and I'm willing to work with. So these are all the characteristics that we can look at that. But there is an element now going into this time period, following this crisis and everything else, that there is a whole new evolution that I'm looking for in leaders and things that I'm aspiring to teach them. And that's embracing the leadership paradox right now. To be honest with you, Peter, it's a time for us to get away from lazy management, lazy leadership, and really be able to embrace a more complex model, a more synthetic model that allows us to deal with more complex times.
Well, we are in time. Just what you said. I mean, let's face it. There's no playbook for the last 12 to 18 months. There's nothing that we've been preparing for the average person. I should say there's probably very few, but there's a few out there that might. But the majority of us, there's no playbook for what we've had to deal with when it comes to leaders. And you're absolutely right about the idea that there is a really, really big difference, and I think it's been amplified over the last 18 months. The difference between a manager and a leader. And so I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep chugging along, because I want to get this in for you. This is what I want to get in for you right now, is I want to go to your website, because not only on the website, it shows a little bit more about who you are. And this is why I want to make sure people are getting out to the website. I'm going to put along the bottom here, Fresh Biz Solutions. That's a BIZ, everybody, solutions.com. And so what I wanted to do, Con, was just jump up there for a second and have a quick peek so that people understand a couple of things. And we're going to have a look at your book as well, because I want to get to the book, because I've talked about that just recently while we had this little mini breakaway there. Let's go right up here. Okay, hold on a second here. I'm going to try to bring up your website, and of course it's not coming up because we're trying to do it right. It's just one of those days today, everybody. It's just so much fun, like what's going on here. I'll get that up in a second here. It's just not popping up on the screen for some reason. It's blocking out. I did want to jump on to talk about the book, and that's what I was going to bring up is the fact that we promoted this particular conversation talking about your book, but there's so much more that we could be talking about. I do want to jump back to something that I just found, literally just found while we were kind of just doing all this kind of stuff. You talked about speaking multiple languages, right? Hey, guess what I found? Guess what I found? Yes, I did. I found. Look at this. Listen to this guy, everybody. Listen to this guy.
Έχουμε περάσει από πολλές αλλαγές. Και πάντα κοιτάμε το αύριο με μια θετικότητα. Έχει ο Θεός, λέμε. Το έχουμε μέσα μας αυτό το πράγμα. Και πάντα κοιτάμε και προσπαθούμε με μια θετικότητα, με μια στοικότητα, αν θέλετε.
Come on. That's awesome. If I could go on jump on shows internationally and just do that, that would be just so awesome. I just think, listen, I thought that was super cool. That was from a TV show over, was it a Greek interview, a Greece interview?
Yes, it was a group out of London that basically deals with a lot of Greeks that are living and working abroad that are doing things that they want to capture that might capture the attention of the population. And it happened at the time when we were talking again about the book. It was much earlier on in the process, and people were so hungry to get more information. And that's part of the reason why we put the book out there, to help people, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay. No, fair enough. And again, I'm still trying to get your website up here in a second, just to show and so on. It's okay. Hey, listen, we don't panic around here. That's what we're not. We're going to adjust. It's called Navigating a Crisis, everybody. That's what it's called right now. Before we jump to the book, I thought this was interesting. I was again doing some research and just listening to some of the things that you've done. So again, we're talking about the book. The book itself is called 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis. But before we jump into the book itself, I heard you suggest that your daughter has been somewhat of an inspiration to you through this process of actually, not only just during the pandemic, but to write the book and all these kinds of things. So I'm just wondering if you could talk about that a little bit. What is it that you see in your daughter like these days that has you feeling so inspired?
Well, there's so many different places where I could go with that one, because she has been an inspiration on so many different levels. But there is one particular example that I want to kind of focus on that kind of sums it all up, if you will. There was a time when she was getting ready in her senior year. We were finishing up because 2020 was her senior year. She was finishing up, getting ready to wrap up 12, 13 years of her schooling, getting ready to finish all that, hit that milestone and get ready for college. And she didn't know that, a few months earlier was her last time that she would be able to see her friends and be able to kind of go through that process, or not be able to kind of set foot in those corridors again until she graduated. So one of the things that we used to do is we used to sit around the kitchen table, and it was funny because, I'd have my laptop out, she'd have hers, my wife would have hers working from there, and we'd all be pounding away on our laptops like a bunch of Eastern European hackers ready to. So we were all kind of doing our thing there. But one of the amazing situations is that she never got down on herself. She always kept a positive attitude. And then she got herself into these healthy behaviors, these healthy habits. Every hour she would have one of those little Fitbits on her arm. And every time it would buzz, she'd be working away for hours on her stuff. But at the top of every hour when it buzzed her, she would get up, she would clap her hands together and go, "Dad, it's walk o'clock." And she would just get up and she would just go walking around the room. I felt bad for her because it was like an inmate kind of going in the courtyard, kind of like around the kitchen. Place is not that big, but she would go around, until her Fitbit said she was done for that hour. She would sit down again and go back to her business. That's an example of somebody who never complained, never felt that poor me, and kind of was an example of a navigator, as we call it. Somebody who does the best with the circumstances, adapts, looks around to what she needs to get done, and goes about her business.
Yeah, see, that's inspiring. Just what you said about this idea of not losing perspective in that moment, and especially for a young person. And that's what I was wondering about that conversation and how she inspired you to kind of. This idea, is that where you pulled from the idea that I really got to get this book out and just get on with it? Is that where you were pulling it from?
That was a big part of it. I mean, the conversation started with my writing partner, who is Dr. 𝘂𝗶𝘃𝗵 𝗣𝗲𝗏, who is a very dear friend of mine, and we've been friends for a number of years, and we had started writing together and co-authoring certain things. And, you know, in the middle of March, when things shut down for all of us here in the States, at least, you know, while our friends were binge watching Netflix shows, we sat down and we looked around, and yeah, we had to deal with the change and what was thrust upon us. But basically, he called me up one morning and he says, you know, I got this inspiration that we need to write a book about this to help people. Are you in? And I didn't hesitate for a minute. I said, of course I'm in. And between our different backgrounds and our skill sets, I mean, his coming from a corporate wellness standpoint, coming from a background where he has a lot of experience in counseling, in dealing with grief, dealing with a lot of those kind of emotional and mental first aid situations that he has had to deal with. For me, coming from a more corporate background where I've helped organizations deal with transformational change that perhaps they directed, or dealing with changes in the marketplace, or dealing with changes that have hit them, and now they have to manage a crisis internally. All of that, between the two of us, it helped us really come together. And in the moment, we just felt very inspired. And within 45 days, to be honest with you, Peter, we were able to go from concept, from yes, I'm in, to we published. And we self-published, and that allowed us to do it more flexibly. But the big point for us was, can we get something out there that will help people? And what we put out there was essentially a book that's easy to read, easy to consume, something you can go back to time and time again, chock full of different prompts of something to think about, something to question, something to do at the end of each chapter, that basically moves people through the 7 keys and essentially helps them along the road. It's a roadmap, if you will, towards resilience, towards overcoming whatever challenge or crisis you might be facing in your life. I mean, in this case, I mean, this was a tsunami of all these different things.
Of course.
I mean, it was one compounded on the other. And at the end of the day, I mean, our capacity to handle change, it's kind of like a sponge. And at this point in time, that sponge got so saturated, even for the most skilled of us in dealing with change. There was just so much change hitting us all at once. And it was impossible for us to cope. So creating that roadmap, it helped heal us, and we hoped that this would help heal others. So we wrote it for the average person that's looking for answers. You know, at a time when everybody's throwing statistics at us, telling us physically or this, that, the other, the bad news is one thing following after another. At some point you go, enough. Give me something that I can do to work with here.
Yeah, that's what I like about this. Again, it's more, there's an application part of it where literally it's practical. It has this practical matter of factness to it that I hope everyone has a chance to. Again, it's available on Amazon, everybody. So I want to make sure, again, hey, Con, listen, I'm apologizing to you. My technology here is just playing with me today. I don't know what's going on. I can't bring anything up. And hey, I'm just being transparent with everybody. I wanted to bring the book cover up and show you all these things here, but it's not participating, and I don't want to lose you again. So we're not going to do that. So again, it's a very practical guide. Let's talk about the 7 keys, but there you go. Hold up the book for me.
I'm going to go low tech on you.
There you I appreciate it. Beautiful. 7 keys to navigating a crisis. Hold that again just a little bit for everyone to see it. This is available on Amazon, everybody. Again, you know, I have all this information right here, and for some reason it's not popping up on the screen. But hey, I super appreciate you doing that and showing people that. Now, there's so much still to cover here. I'm going to go through very quickly what those 7 keys are, but I really want to focus on one specific. Now, again, I want everyone to go out and get a copy of that book, or jump on Amazon, have a peek at it. Jump on the website, of course. You can find the information on your website as well, so people can find the book and see more about it, what it is there. So let's just talk about the 7 keys we're talking about. First of all, we have self-care. That's the number 1 key, which again, it's not self-explanatory, everyone, but I'm just moving through it so that we can get to a particular one I want to talk about. Awareness is number 2. I'm assuming self-awareness there. Flexibility is number 3. Preparation, number 4. Initiative is number 5. And again, I'm not suggesting none of these. These are whole shows in their own, just so you know, everybody. Like, we could dig into any one of these. Positive attitude, of course, we all could use that. And number 7 is kindness. And, you know, this one jumped out at me instantly because, of course, well, first of all, just love the concept of kindness. You know, I always end most of my shows. If I forget, it would be once, but I always, just be kind out there. I just remind myself, I just want to be kind. I love Dr. Wayne Dyer's quote to talk about quotes. I don't know where he got it from, but the idea of if you have a choice between choosing to be right or kind, choose kind. So I always love that saying as well. So let's talk about kindness. I heard you talk about the idea of what it is. I'm going to ask you what you are referring to in this particular key, and then I'm going to ask you a question about it. So tell us in your terms of when you wrote this book, why is that a key, and why is kindness a part of these 7 keys to navigating a crisis?
Well, to answer that question, let me answer let me kind of go back to where you started that whole journey on self-care. And self-care is nothing more than being kind to yourself. So we start the journey from the inside out, and we say, okay, take care of yourself. And through the journey, you're building up that muscle, because resilience is a muscle, and we build it up along the way, going through the awareness of our environment, becoming more flexible, preparing ourselves for what's going to be happening, and then turning outwards into initiative and taking action, starting to kind of gain some control in our environment, keeping that positive attitude and the belief that, you know what, there will be a positive end to this. This will end at some point. We will get to the other side. But ultimately, we come to kindness, because the way for us to get out of our own self-pity at times is to be kind to others. If we're struggling with ourselves, we can help somebody else, because again, like I mentioned to you, I'm probably 99.9% better than a lot of the people out there. And I'm looking at that and saying, you know what? Proportionally, if I put it in perspective, I'm in a much better place than a lot of people that are struggling out there without the resources, without a lot of what they have to do. If I can go out and be kind and offer something to somebody else, to help somebody else, it gets me out of my self-centeredness. It gets me out of that mode of me focusing on my own needs and what I might be missing at the time. And I'm giving of myself to somebody else. And when I do that, the minute I start offering of myself to another person, a magical thing happens. Not only am I putting a smile on somebody's face, which is rewarding unto itself, but I also feel positive on my end. I'm helping myself. So it's one of those things where it's not a zero sum. It's not a thing that if I give it to you, I don't have it. It's like a candle. You can light 1,000 other candles, and that first candle never loses its brightness, because you can keep giving of yourself a kind smile, a gesture, a plate of food, shelter, whatever somebody needs in the moment, where we can be kind to somebody else, whatever that might be. And so much of that comes back to us.
Yeah. Does it, right? I agree. And again, this is why this one jumped out, and I really, listen, we could do a whole show about this one. I really do appreciate what you're talking about there. And it seems we can almost say this every year, that it's more important than ever to be kind. But again, in my recent thinking, the last 18 months is, and moving forward, as we go back and re-engage with people, it's going to be super important for us to really have that empathy and that compassion and that understanding to share that kindness. There's something that you've said before in a conversation, and I want to ask you this, because this is fascinating to me. I don't know if you know this or not, but one of my favorite words in general, I have a nice list of kind of like your quotes. You have a list of quotes. I have a list of words. Courage is always one, but reciprocity is one for me. And you said before, I heard you say before, kindness is not transactional. Basically a gift is not intended to have reciprocity. And as soon as I heard you say that, I was like, wow, I want him to expand on that. And the reason why is because I'm just wondering, is it a bad thing to expect reciprocity when there's kindness involved? And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, about this idea that, if you're being kind and you're doing good deeds to feel good about it. I'm putting a question along the bottom so I can remind myself of the thoughts that I was having. Is it kindness, or is it just doing business? Or, again, does it matter at all? Does it even matter? So your thoughts on that?
The last word, the one that you have in the parentheses in there, is the one that I want to kind of start my answer with. It all depends on the intention. Kindness by its nature is not intended to be transactional. Kindness, like I said, is a gift. Truly, I believe that. The gesture, the intent behind that is to offer something of yourself, offer something to another person without expecting something back. It's not kindness to say, I'm going to give you this if you give me that. That is transactional. And when you look at that from that perspective, if that was the case, nobody would be kind in an isolated situation. They'd always make sure that the cameras were on, that somebody was recording that. And that's where you realize, I mean, people's BS meter is on high alert for this kind of things. You can sense when something is staged. It's the same thing as we have with integrity. Integrity doesn't turn on and off whether somebody's watching. Integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. And kindness is the same way. It's a gift whether somebody's watching or not. The person on the receiving end, and even if they don't know, how many times have you done something anonymously where you can do something, where you can offer something to somebody and you don't expect to be recognized for it? That's true kindness. That's the thing that really gets you excited internally, because that's where the magic happens. It doesn't happen the same way if you do it with the intent of being recognized for it. If you do it with the intent of receiving something back, that takes away the magic feeling that you have, that tingling that you have inside.
Yeah, listen, it's fascinating. There's no right or wrong in this discussion. I just listen. I'm not putting anyone, and I'm not certainly putting you on the spot to explain that particular. But I really appreciate the idea, like you said, this idea of reciprocity. And I know in my past of talking to people about philanthropy, as an example, about doing good deeds, whether it's volunteering or writing a check. People think philanthropy is just writing a check. It's actually a lot of things involved in philanthropy. But I've had a lot of people push back on me privately, who do not want to be interviewed, or don't want the cameras on them, don't want their name mentioned for the kindness that they do in the world of philanthropy. And my argument with them, and I don't want to call it an argument, my position with them, because I really want people to celebrate those things. And for me, it's like you become what you see and hear all the time. So if you see and hear people doing good deeds, maybe you'll be more influenced to do it yourself. So my idea has always been, to amplify people doing good deeds in philanthropy. But I think you're right about the idea that the BS meter gets high when you start staging things to make it look like you're, and that's why this is such a fascinating concept about being kind and reciprocity. And what does that mean? So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that with you.
Yeah, and let me answer the question that you have up on our screen right now. Is being kind self-serving? Okay. Now, so let's tackle that for a second. If I do something that makes me feel good and I want to do more of that, that's not self-serving. That's an internal driver or motivation, right? So in itself, if I'm doing it for the reasons of giving, of being philanthropic, or whatever the case might be, and I get satisfaction out of that, I love putting smiles on people's faces. That's something that I get a lot out of. That's not in my book. That's not self-serving in itself, because I'm not doing it only for me.
Right.
That's a byproduct of my actions. That's a byproduct of, or a result of me helping somebody else.
Yeah.
From that perspective. And even in the case where people prefer to remain anonymous, you can still use their example to motivate others without putting them in the spotlight per se, because they choose not to be, from that perspective. Right. And that's something that we can still use that as a role model, as an encouragement for somebody else, without necessarily disclosing that.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating subject, because again, I love the idea of reciprocity, because that's the universe. That's how it works. It's yin and yang. It's left and right, north, south. It's all of these that balance things out, and the idea of give and take and so on, and how it plays out in our society. It's fascinating. Kindness and philanthropy and so on. So listen, I super appreciate you adding those. I want to make sure that we're getting lots of look. I knew we had some people that show up to to see you and so on. So I wanted to make sure I got some of the comments up here. Oh my goodness, Karen, look at this. This is look. I'm going to put all this up, Karen, just because if you're going to type it, I'm going to put it up. But the level of transparency, great leaders show an appropriate level of transparency. Appropriate, not so much as timing and knowing the facts, is sharing team messages. Also, leadership is a balance of open communication and restraint. That's a good word, actually, restraint. I like that word when it comes to that. This does not mean leaders should lie or hold back important information for open discussion. It means being honest and stable. What do you think about that? This idea of being having some restraint so that you can at least, but still hold a sense of honesty with being a leader like that, Con?
See, I love where Karen's going with this, because authenticity is one of those things that people look for in leaders. Are you real? Good, bad, or indifferent, I may have certain preferences about your style, but one thing I will appreciate you is the fact that you're being authentic. What I see is what I get. Now, when it comes to the communication piece, Karen's comments remind me of a whole chapter, a whole section in 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵 book, The Road Less Traveled, when he talks about truth. And he talks about truth with a sense of responsibility to that truth. There are people that have used truth as a blunt force instrument and say, well, I'm just calling it as it is, when they're just trying to be spiteful and mean.
Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
If I turn around and tell a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, Santa Claus doesn't exist, get over it, kid. Okay, maybe I'm telling the truth, maybe.
Right.
But maybe I'm using that to hurt somebody else. So if we're using truth to hurt another person, if we're using truth to manipulate a situation, that's not necessarily being honest, is it? I mean, there's a piece of that where you look and say, do people really appreciate that? To me, in a leadership role where I've been, there have been times where I've been privy to information that is not common, is not something that I need to share, because certain business decisions are based on that information, or it's a result of certain business decisions. I can tell people the lie that I don't know, or I can be my authentic self and say, look, I can't talk about that right now. There's a time and a place for that. And that's me being honest and saying, I can't talk about that right now.
But still have that restraint. We just used that word restraint.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's something that people can appreciate. You know, that's something where, from a leadership perspective, you know, you got to be able to handle that, because you're not going to make all the popular decisions all the time. You're going to have to be dealing with things that are unpopular at times. If you're getting into a leadership role to be adored and loved, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, popularity, boy, that's a big, like you said, it's not a popularity contest, that's for sure. Hey, I'm going to throw up a comment here that I'm so appreciative of, because I think I know who this beautiful person is. Con, totally love your authenticity. I'm totally getting your book, Suzanne. So I think that's Suzanne Heaton. You want to check her out, Con, for sure, because she works with, she has a company called Motivated by Nature, and she works with individuals and organizations about really reconnecting with nature to do what we're talking about right here, navigating crisis and so on, and just starting to feel better and reconnected with everything that we've been going through. So I appreciate that, Suzanne. I'm sure he loves hearing that as well. And let's see, love the candle one as well. Candle, you can light 1,000 other candles. That is a great metaphor, if you will. I really appreciate that. See, look, you're wowing them. You're wowing them, Con. I knew it was going to happen. Hey, listen, I super appreciate that explanation as we're again just talking about kindness and the reciprocity and so on. Let me move to this idea, because I've heard you say this, and I think we've heard this phrase so much that it's hard for me. It's painful for me to say it, but I'm going to say it to put it in context. Everyone is referring to that these days that we have to get returning to the new normal. The new normal. And I hear that phrase all the time. Now, I know that you like using another term, and you talk about the next normal. So talk to us about the distinction of what you consider to be new normal versus next normal. What does that mean to us as we move through the rest of 2021 and in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. And that's a great prompt for me to be able to kind of share some of my thoughts on this. Everybody is quick to dub this the new normal, in the hopes that we're going to get back to what we used to have. And we talk about the new normal, but when we call it the new normal, it implies that we're done changing. it implies that we've arrived. And that's so far from the truth, because we have a saying in Greece that's thousands of years old. You can never cross the same river twice. And when you look at that, why is that? Because you're never the same person as time goes by, and neither is the river. As the water flows, it's never the same river. Change is constant in our lives, and that's something that we have to accept. So when we dub this next state of affairs the next normal, it allows us the room to embrace that this is our current state, but it's not our permanent state. And that's going to be another next normal after that, and the next normal after that, and the next normal after that. Some things might happen through this revolutionary crisis process, but some things are going to happen in a more quiet, more discreet way in an evolutionary process. And that doesn't mean that things aren't changing. They're constantly changing. We didn't have these things a few years ago. Some of us remember. Some of us remember that. Yeah. Right. So you look at that and you say, how much has our world changed in the last 10, 20 years? And how much will it continue to change? So rather than looking at the new normal, call it the next normal and embrace that in the moment. It's a Polaroid, a snapshot in time. And then we're going to go to something else and something else. And when you accept that, you're going to be prepared for the changes as they come. You won't be stuck in a situation where you're still expecting everything around you to remain the same.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. See, I like that distinction. And I got to tell you, like, that phrase has just helped me just in my own mind of where I am, where I want to go, all these things, looking backwards, forwards. You know, I'm guilty of this. If anyone else can relate to this, you can add it to the comment, but I'm always in the past or the future. Gosh, I really got to stay present. I'm with you right now. Yeah. I mean, like, when I'm doing this, this is my most present thing I can do, is when I'm with you, or if I'm playing my guitar for somebody, I'm right in the moment with somebody. But when I'm on my own, I'm always in the future or the past. But this idea of thinking of what's the new norm and what it used to be. And I love the way you phrase it, the idea of accepting the idea. It's just the next norm and then the next one. And we just adapt to that.
And let's kind of add one more thing to this piece before we put a pin in it. But if we're looking at this from a resilience standpoint, from being able to cope with our situation, sometimes that next normal is going to be a positive one, and it's going to be something that we never want to end because we're basking in its glory. And sometimes we're going to be going through tough times. That next normal also allows us to understand that that's not permanent either, that even the most difficult times are not permanent. There's going to be something after that. And that gives us the ability to deal with that, to appreciate the good moments, but also to be able to endure the difficult ones.
Yeah, see, like that. Yeah, I again, another show, a full show right there. A full show. We could just talk about just that concept alone. Listen, hey, I appreciate your insights on that. There's something that in your conversations, and it's, you know, it's in your book, but it's also in the things I've seen you post. I know that you talk about this a lot. You talk about the idea of fear, and, you know, bottom line is, you know, we all do this, either love or fear. Let's face it, it's either love or fear. We all experience it in some way, and all the answers sometimes you suggest that all the answers are on the other side of fear. Now, I know that you coach people. You coach people all the time, so you walk them through their fears, and so you're skilled at that. So I'm not asking you as a coach. I'm asking you as a fellow human being here. What are you afraid of? What is a fear that's on your radar these days that you're now navigating?
That I don't have enough time to help people the way I want to help as many people as I want to. That's one fear I have right now. I fear like, how am I going to be able to reach those that need to hear my message, those that need to hear a kind word, those that need to hear something that will inspire them to make an improvement, a step in the right direction, to get them unstuck. That's a fear that I have.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're running out of time? Is that, I mean, are you sensitive to that? Is it, I want to get really to that, what that really emotionally, it moves you, that fear.
It is because, you know, that fear fuels me. It fuels me to work as many hours as I do each day, because it doesn't even feel like work. It feels like I want to address this. I want to be able to get to the point where I need to get that next post out. I need to have that next interview. I need to talk to my friend Peter. I need to be able to get out there and meet somebody. This morning, I had a cup of coffee. I don't rush that. I relish that. I had a cup of coffee with a friend I hadn't seen in years. And through our conversation, I was able to offer him one or two little nuggets. And I got the same out of the conversation, mind you, that helped me and hopefully helped him. Can I do that as many times? Because sometimes doing it one-to-one is a little difficult. There's not enough hours in the day. But can I jump on a conversation with Peter? And through our conversation, can we reach 1,000 people? Can we reach 1 million people? Can we reach the 5 million people that we want to reach and be able to say, you know what? Hey, maybe each one of them got that little nugget that they needed. Can I do something, whether it's through my comments or through something that I suffered through I learned through a failure of my own, or even a success that might help that person? Can I do that and reach somebody?
Yeah, listen, you're singing to the choir now. Because listen, that's one of my fears. I have lots, by the way, everybody, but one of them, just being honest, one of them is exactly that. Is that I live with this idea that I know how to do this kind of stuff, this kind of technology, and use it as a force for good, and that's part of what my purpose, I believe, is. And that's a fear. It actually sits there and go like, Peter, are you making a difference at all? Does it even matter that you're doing what you're doing? And it starts playing in your mind, and it becomes a real fear. And then you have to learn how to, start talking to that little voice that wants to take you on a little ride and go in different places. So I really wanted to just touch on that, because I know that you're obviously working with many people that would come to you and say, listen, this I fear, this I fear, and this I fear. And it's just interesting here, not so much as a coach, but as another human being, just trying to figure it out like we all are. Right? Yeah. I mean, because it's hard to coach yourself, I'm going to guess. Right?
Oh, it is. I mean, any more than a doctor can operate on themselves. I mean, it's hard to do that. Yeah. I mean, we are the worst patients when it comes to our own advice. Yeah. So I'm going to echo what you said in the beginning, and I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit here. And I'm going to invite, and I'm going to challenge anybody that's hearing to us right now in this live stream, or even beyond that on the replay, to share this message and to share your other broadcasts, because there is so many wonderful messages in those, Peter, that we need to get that message out. There's enough bad stuff out there. There's enough bad news, misinformation, biased stuff out there. Let's get the good stuff out there. If this is impacting you out there listening to us, watching us right now, share it. Don't keep it for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a great message about a lot of things. And listen, I appreciate that. You didn't need to. I appreciate you sharing that, because I do want people to obviously tune in and affect that one person if we can, and so on. But that's a good message for everything that we find good in our lives. If you read a good book, if you could help somebody, whatever the case would be, just share that within your network, so that, like you said, there's that ripple effect that we were just talking about earlier. And I think it's just a super good message about how we face our fears. I'm going to take you down, and I apologize in advance, just so you know, everybody, I never prep my guests for where we're going to go. I know he goes, do you want me to prep anything? I'm like, nope. So I'm going to take you a little bit on a journey, and I hope that I'm doing the right thing here, but I think there's something in there for someone that needs to hear it right now. So stay with me on this. I think in the summer of 2012, you lost your mom, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking at that time, you were married, you had a daughter. I would guess she's probably 10 or 11 at that time, and she just lost her grandmom and stuff like that. So I'm just, I don't want to go too deep with you on that, because again, I didn't clear it with you and so on. So I'm really putting you on the spot. But I'm just wondering how did that affect you? What was your biggest demon that you were fighting during that time? And maybe you can share the lesson that you learned that you carry forward to this very day.
Well, that's an interesting question. Let me kind of put it in context a little bit. At the time, this was the tail end of the Great Recession of 2008. And we had gone through a number of years kind of struggling with that here. I was working for an employer at the time, a very large restaurant company with multiple chains in North America. And at the time, the company, it was got bought up by another organization, and they proceeded to make organizational changes. And as part of that, I was displaced through no fault of my own, but I was displaced. So we're talking now late 2011 by the time this happened. And in 2012, early on, I started interviewing to find a job, but no doors were opening up. So here I am, being essentially the primary breadwinner for my family, a young child, dealing with the challenges of the time and getting a lot of no's. So when I got the news about my mom in her last days, I jumped on a flight. She was back in Greece. And I got there just after she had passed. I was there for her funeral and everything else, and with my sisters, and we kind of shared our grief. But on the way back, I had a lot of time to think. And it really put things in perspective for me as far as what my challenges were. Losing a loved one, and this was the first of my parents. Since then, I've lost my father, but this was the first big loss for me, and it was monumental. So it really, really put things in perspective. I could have at the time, and I did for a while, really go into a dark place. But part of what it also did for me, there was a light that started coming up inside me, and that light started burning brighter, and it made me realize that, you know what? I know that my mom, in all the moments that she said she was proud of me, of all the things that I'd accomplished, would never tolerate me feeling sorry for myself. So on the spur of the moment, I took action. I made some calls, and that became the start of me getting back on track, and starting my own business, realizing that, you know what, at the time, people weren't prepared to pay me to become an employee for them, but they were willing to pay me for my consulting skills, my knowledge, my expertise, and everything else. And what I discovered is I had a knack for that my entire history had prepared me for this moment, for me to start this. And I became what I call an accidental entrepreneur. It launched Fresh Biz Solutions, a fresh perspective, a way for me to provide solutions to help people. And again, you want to talk about that kindness piece. The minute I started focusing on helping others, I stopped feeling sorry for myself.
Wow. See that, I think someone needed to hear that. And I don't know who, by the way, I really don't, but wow, that's very, very helpful for someone right now. And I love the idea that you pulled the fresh into that whole, a fresh perspective, a new way of looking at things. And so from that darkness, obviously that, sort of shaped your thinking at that time and so on. And obviously you carry that forward today, because that's what you're doing now. I mean, you're helping people.
Well, that's part of how we build the resilience. We go through these things. Like I said, since then, we've lost essentially 4 or 5 loved ones that were part of that same generation. My father, my wife lost both of her parents, a loved uncle that we had. So over these last few years, we've lost a number of them. And it's not that we get desensitized, but we're a little bit more equipped to handle it, because again, we're building that resilience muscle, and we know the signs. We know the stages of grief that we deal with, because nobody gets away with that. You're still going to have that transition, but it's just, again, what is a navigator when you think about that? We talk about that in the book, Peter. A navigator doesn't always necessarily know where they might not have been in this exact moment. I'm only going to lose my mother once, my father once, but I recognize the signs. I recognize the journey. I recognize the path. And looking around me, I can then navigate through that process. And that's many times what we bring. That's the kind of experience that we bring. When you mentor other young wannabe podcasters, or people that want to get into the kind of production side that and how many people have you given guidance to as a navigator, as a mentor? You're helping them kind of carve out their own path in that piece. That's no different than what I do. I'm trying to help other leaders, either through young emerging leaders that haven't been down this path at all, or through the right questions with more senior leaders that need to discover something that they forgot along the way. That's what a navigator does.
Yeah.
Or a good coach.
Listen, I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate the fact you're willing to go down that path with me, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's those very, very, really, really dark moments that that none of us are going to be immune to those.
Yeah.
A really good friend of mine, and I'll end this particular, I'll pop this balloon by this. A good friend of mine, really good friend of mine, grew up. I've known him for about 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it to me so matter of fact that it just keeps me present when I think about it all the time. He goes, and he said, Peter, he goes, let's face it, either I'm going to be at your funeral or you're going to be at mine. And I was like, wow, that is sad. And just at the same time, just a reality check, and then of course, then from there you can just stay present. That's what I was talking about earlier, being in the past or in the present. So anyway, I really appreciate you going down that road, because I heard you talk about that summer that you lost your mom, and I knew that was a very pivotal time in your life. So I appreciate you being so open and transparent and sharing that with us. Hey, let's go to a couple more comments here. I mean, everyone is just loving all of the good stuff here. Truth without kindness verges on cruelty. Geez, I like that. Truth without kindness verges on. Wow, that's so true. Wow, that's a powerful. I like that one. Next normal, freaking love it. Suzanne Heaton. Let's continue to evolve and change for the benefit of 7 generations to come. Absolutely. Here's another one. Con, you were helping people just by being you. Believe that with your heart, mind, and soul. No fear needed. Feeling the love in all of this. Hey. There you go. She's a cool person. You got to connect with her. She is just super awesome. And let's see if there's anything else here. Let's see. Good. Oh, I like this too. He's right. A good navigator points the way with little instruction. Very true. Like you said, navigator, it's kind of like a plane. I think everyone doesn't. I think most people might know this, but bottom line is the plane's off course basically 98% of the time. It's just always adjusting, making adjustments. It eventually gets there, but a good navigator knows how to do that. I just wanted to throw up those comments there. Hey, we're going to have some fun. We have to break for some fun right now. I'm sorry. I told you an hour. Didn't I tell you I would never get it done in an hour?
You did.
I'm sorry, man. Listen, this is just what listen, I'm not good for a short conversation. So, if we ever visit each other, there's going to be a lot of.
You're forgetting I'm Greek. Time management is kind of a guideline, really, when it's time. Have you ever been to a Greek wedding that lasts 3 days?
Right. That's so true. Come over for dinner. It'll be a couple hours. Yeah, I'm sure. No, hey, listen, we're going to break for something. And I hope you would love this, because I've never done this before. And I'm doing it. I'm starting something brand new. And it probably might only be for you, because you're the one that triggered it in my brain here. So we're going to do something. I created something today. I was thinking, I got to do something different with my friend here. And here's what we're going to have fun with right now. Listen to this. So I know you love quotes. So I'm going to do a little thing called Don't Quote Me.
Ooh.
Don't quote me. Don't quote me. Now, listen, this is not putting you on the spot. This is just, I love quotes too. I just love a great quote, just because, again, it brings these ideas down to even one sentence sometimes. And of course, they're normally from people that you admire, whether it's authors, writers, leaders, something, of course. So we're going to do Don't Quote Me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a quote, because I know you love quotes. I'm going to put up a quote. I just want to know if you know whose quote it is. And listen, I tried to find some normal ones and simple ones. And listen, this is no right or wrong, and it's no reflection on your passion for quotes. None of those things, everybody. I just thought it'd be fun just to try it. I just give it a shot just to see what happens here. So here we go. I picked up a couple simple ones here. I think whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.
This is almost like an Einstein kind of quote to me.
Oh, that's very close. Yeah. That's a Napoleon
Hill. Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Napoleon Hill. You love that. So here we go. Here's the next one here. We're only going to do a couple of these just for fun. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Oh,
you're right. I know this one. Is this one leadership guru? God, it's slipping my mind right now. I should know better than this one.
No. Listen, there's no right or wrong. I'm throwing you right on the spot.
Go for it. Who is this one? I know this one. I love this one. Henry Ford. Oh,
Henry Ford. Yeah, Henry. Well, listen, I got to check all my sources. If anyone can disprove any of these, please do that. I like this one here. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. I know that last one better. Don't wish it were easier. Wish it was better.
Right. This one almost reminds me of Napoleon Hill, since you brought it up earlier, because that's one of the things that he talks about in Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah. That first one was, you're right. The first one was from Think and Grow Rich. Here's a guy I listen to all the time, Jim Rohn. Love
Nice.
Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn. There you go. Hey, there's no right or wrong, everybody. We're just having some fun here. We're just throwing up some quotes. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
The one that we remember, she's gone way before her time, Maya Angelou.
There you go. Yeah, I love that phrase too. Yeah, I love that phrase as well. All right, this one I'm throwing in for a real reason. So I'm really testing you on this one here. Just think about it. Think about it. It's during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light.
Ooh, this sounds like a something that Martin Luther King would say.
Yeah, you're right. It does, doesn't it? It does sound like that now that I think about it. But I just thought I threw in a little grease in there for you. A little
Aristotle.
I just thought I'd throw it in there.
Nice.
Little Socrates, Aristotle,
Nice.
Go down there.
Nice.
Hey, listen, we just had some fun. That's all we were doing. Don't quote me. Hey, listen, I know you love quotes, so I just thought I'd throw in a couple in there. I just had some
That
fun.
was beautiful. Thank you. Because not only is it makes you think, it makes you realize how much power in these words.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the fact that I've heard you speak a couple times and other things that you've posted and so on. I love the fact that you do reference quotes because again, there's something succinct about it, and then of course you can always expand on it and so on. So appreciate that. Hey, let's go down this path before we get to the real fun. We're getting to some more fun in a minute here and so on. But I do want to ask you this question because I think your journey has been something. I really do. I think it's pretty interesting. You've talked about you had come from a background of whether it was in the performing arts and media and a drill sergeant. We didn't even talk about that, for goodness sake.
Oh, God, scary.
Right?
I'm a much nicer person, babe. I'm a much nicer person now.
Yeah, there you go. Right. They didn't get to meet, they didn't get to meet Con. They didn't get to meet that they didn't get to meet that guy. So I'm just wondering, what, of all the things you've done so far, I mean, continents and jobs and all those things, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of about your journey so far?
My daughter.
Oh.
My daughter. She will be successful despite me, and she will be someone that will be much more memorable. No matter what I think I've done, I will be her father. That's the one thing I'm most proud of, and the thing that people will be introducing me as.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, you're just gonna make her cry right there. You almost made me cry. That's very nice. That's a beautiful sentiment right there. But it's probably a testimony of who you are as well. I mean, obviously you're measuring yourself against your family and your legacy and so on. And I think that's an amazing thing to do. So the pride in your children and your family and what you leave behind, I think that's super special. On that same note about, with your daughter, and you spend a lot of time at home and you wrote the book, you did all these things. It's been a tough year for most people, right? I mean, it's been a very, very tough year for people. So I'm just wondering, you're a coach and you're always trying to help people, maybe like me or other people, to lift it up, stay positive. Just wondering what helps you to stay optimistic today. What keeps you hopeful and optimistic these days?
It's something that you've already touched on, that you said that is part of our fear. It's knowing that we're making a difference. What keeps fueling my passion to help others is knowing that it's making a difference for them. Not that I want the recognition, but knowing that it's somebody's breathing easier. Let me transfer that into a context that's related to the Coach Con name. What I'm most proud of when I work with the kids, and I've worked with kids at all different levels. What I'm most proud of is the fact that kids find me after the game, or after I've stopped coaching them, or even years later, and they come to me and they shake my hand or give me a hug and they say, "Coach, thank you. What you said that one time, or what you did that one time, or what you taught me that one time has really helped me in my life. I still love the game, and I loved playing for you. I loved being part of our team, and that's some of our best memories." When kids say that to me, is there a better feeling of that? It's the same thing when you have a young manager, or a seasoned one for that matter, a leader that turns to you and says, "You know what? You've helped me become better at what I do." I can help. Again, think about that metaphor with the candle. If I can light a light that carries on and lights other lights, that's the piece that we do. That's true immortality. People think it's living forever. It's not. It's, can you make a difference that will last generations? The quote that you had up there for Aristotle, it's been around for 2,500 years.
Right.
And we're quoting him today just as if it was something that we just said yesterday.
Yeah.
If that's not a legacy, if that's not something that we can leave that can impact people's lives, what would? That's the stuff that's what immortality is all about.
Yeah, the
That's
legacy.
true.
I love the term legacy, by the way. I mentioned earlier, I have a whole bunch of favorite words.
Yeah.
Legacy is another one of mine. I love the concept of legacy and what it means. And, it goes back to Maya Angelou. Just people will remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
They don't know how many guitars you have. They don't know how many shirts you have. You know what I mean? No one cares. I mean, no one even cares, but they'll remember that, hey, I met that guy, or I met that lady and she made me feel like this, or he said that and made me feel like that. Or in your case, coaching, you coach a lot of girls soccer, youth soccer in general, but a lot of young people that, again, as they grow into young men and women, and then they see you on the street or see you at a game, and I mean, that's legacy stuff, man. That's fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. And there you go. Didn't even talk about your coaching career. I mean, look, there's so much to talk about here. So I got to get some more of these in on you for sure. Hey, listen, before we go, because we are going to go, I know you're thinking, like, did this Greek wedding come to an end? Yes, it will come to an end, everybody. It will come to an end. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun because we got to get to know what's going on inside of this mind of yours. And, when you get on LinkedIn, you get on Clubhouse, I know you spend time on Clubhouse. It's cool that you hear people and you can talk to with them and so on, but you don't get to know them. It's hard to, because we're all wearing masks and we're just kind of trying to figure things out. We navigate with each other and all those things. So you don't get to know anybody. But so that's what I thought in this show, we got to come up with something called This or That. So we're going to do a little This or That with Con. And by the way, this is the first time you get the very first one here. We're going to play This or That. Watch this. Here we go, everybody. Look at that. Huh?
Wow.
This or That with Coach Con. Yeah, that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to do a little This or That. That's what we're going to do. This or That. So all I do, same old stuff. I'll bring up a couple things. You pick it. There's no right or wrong. You just pick this or that, and that's all we're going to do. So there's no right or wrong, but we get to know a little bit more about what's going on inside that mind in there. I tell my wife, you don't want to come in here. You don't want to come in here. I'll tell you that right now. So some of this is going to take some work on my part for speaking wise. So I'm going to see. Just so bear with me on some of these ones. I didn't even ask you this question, so I'm going to take this question out eventually because I don't think people get offended by it, but I'll start with it anyway. I don't know if you like a red wine or anything like that, but I'm going to ask you this one: whiskey or wine?
Not big on either, but I would probably go with wine.
Okay, good. All right, good to know. Spider-Man or Batman?
Batman.
Okay, why is that? I'm just curious. The car, probably the car.
That too, the toys, yes, always help. But I have to admit, I like the complexity of the character.
Yeah. Oh, you're right about that. There is a complexity to that character. Good point. Hey, that's what he needs coaching. That's what it is. That's what it is. How about this? 60s music or 80s music?
Oh, I'm an 80s kid, so I grew up with that music. So
my hair is stuck in the 80s. I totally get that. Yeah. So if you're an 80s person, let's go. Let's put these together. How about Bon Jovi or Prince?
Prince.
Yeah. See, gosh, what a loss there, right? Anyway, enough said about that. Stay with me on this. I'm going to do my best. Okay. Mpsaka.
Oh.
Mpsaka or 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵 𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗲𝗄.
Ooh, very good. I'm impressed. Very good. I would have to go Mpsaka though.
Oh, Mpsaka, God, yeah. So did I say that last one right?
Yes,
𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵 𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗄.
Very good. Very good. Very good. That, you know what? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I've looked up the
Nice.
recipe.
I invite everybody to take a look at that because you can't go wrong with either one of those.
Oh, see, and I moussaka sounds fantastic as well. I mean these are two staple dishes, everybody, from Greece. So the Greeks out there understand. They're probably rolling around now, laughing at my attempt at that. Was that close though? Was it
very
close?
good? It was very good.
Hey, I appreciate that. I was working on that today too. So there you go. Right? Yeah. So I know you've traveled around the world. Let's go somewhere and see where you think with this one. South America or Australia?
I would have to vote Australia.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah,
birthplace. Yeah,
yeah. Have you been? Have you go back like often or anything like that? Or
I've not been there since I was a kid, and I'm looking forward to going there soon to visit with family at some point in the next few years.
Awesome, good for you. Me too.
Yeah.
I've been down there once, but man, I got to go back again. And New Zealand, I've not been, so I got to go to that whole part of the world. So I get that. All right, be careful now. You're a soccer coach, right? Football. If anyone's from the proper the old world, it's football. I'll call it soccer for now. So be careful here. Be careful. Ronaldo or Messi?
Messi.
Okay. I'm not saying anything, everybody. Euro World Cup is on right now. I think it's Euro 2020. I think they're anyway, that's coming up. I think it's almost at the finals here and so on. So those are two soccer players. Anyone or football players? Anyone doesn't know? Is it Cristiano? It's Cristiano? Is that his first? Yeah,
Cristiano Ronaldo, yes.
And Lionel Messi.
Messi. Yep.
Yeah. So there's two famous soccer players. Everybody.
Yeah.
And being a soccer coach, I had to hear it from him.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, I got to find out a little bit about your daily habits here. Sunrise or sunset?
I used to be sunset. Now I'm much more sunrise.
Morning guy. So you like getting up early? You like to, yeah. I get it. Yeah, I like that too. I must say, I like both actually. I really do. I like early.
Each one has its charm. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, here we go with another one. This was spending. You're a leadership guy. I know you love to talk to people, and here's a couple guys I'm wondering if you would be interested in talking to. A day with Richard Branson on Necker Island to talk about leadership, or a day with Elon Musk to talk about going to Mars.
I would say Richard Branson.
Yeah. Well, I like that guy too. And why Branson over and Musk? But Elon's out there, so I mean, that would be interesting.
He's an acquired taste. Let's put it that way.
I think he needs a coach, just to be honest with you. I mean, he's done very well. Hey, everybody, I'm not making fun of him by no stretch of the imagination. But yeah, he's an interesting cat. And of course, Richard Branson, as we're recording this right now, is trying to get to space within the next week, I believe. So that's going to be fantastic. I think Virgin Galactic.
Both of them pioneers, but I think each one has embraced a very different persona on how they get there. And to me, one resonates with me more than the other one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I hear you. All right, my favorite one right here. This is my favorite question, or one of them for sure. Hope or freedom?
Hope or freedom? Oh God, how do you separate those two? I would say freedom, because if I'm free, I can choose to be hopeful.
Oh, again, no right or wrong.
Again, personal choice. Yeah. Personal choice from that piece. I think, to me, freedom speaks to me as I will take that one right now compared to the two.
Oh wow. Okay, I love it. It's so fascinating to hear how people interpret those two terms. And you're right; they're very, very hard to pull apart. Sometimes they're very hard to pull apart. Finish this sentence for me, my fine friend. Finish this one for me. I love my life because
I'm in the driver's seat. I'm alive.
Love it. Yeah, I'm alive. I mean, gosh, that's the moment thing we talked about earlier. I talked about always living in the future or in the past, being present, feeling your breath, just the idea of just being alive at all.
Many people are, they go about their day, but are they truly alive? And that's a thing for the senses, for the mind, for the heart. I feel very alive. I feel like, again, because I can make a difference, because I choose the path that I'm taking. I'm in the driver's seat. I don't allow myself to sit in the passenger seat in my own life. I just don't. I'm a control enthusiast from the perspective of I love to be in the steering wheel and choose where I want to go.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna tell you, like I'm a terrible car passenger. I want to be driving. That's why I don't. Hey, listen, that's why I don't do very many podcasts. By the way, I love doing these. But when someone said you want to be a guest on the podcast, I'm like,
no, because I can't drive.
I don't know what to do with myself. I don't even know what to do. You want me just to sit and say, I don't know what to do with myself. So no, I love that. Yeah, being in the driver's seat of your own life. I love that. I love that. Let's go to a couple quick before we take off here. Hey, listen, love that. It's good to see this fine young man right here. Marcello. Good to see you.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, there he is. Good to see him. He pops in and out on some of these shows, so I super appreciate always being here. And of course, from Atlanta, Georgia. You've been to Atlanta before, Con? You've been to Atlanta?
I've been passing through Atlanta, and I look forward to the next time. If I'm there, I'm going to look my friend Marcello up because he is such an energetic and enthusiastic leader.
Nice one. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I get it. I really totally get it here. Paul here from Boston. I can't wait to go see Paul. Another friend of mine up in the Boston area. I've only been to Boston once. How about yourself? You've been to Boston?
I've been there a few times. There's a couple of Greeks up there. There's a couple of Greeks up in Boston.
Yeah, two. I think just three up there. I can't wait to go up there because Paul is also a connoisseur of some craft beers, and he likes a good whiskey every now and then. So I told him the last time I was there, I went to the Cheers. He goes, "You can't go to the tourist places. I got to bring you to some real places." So
he'll probably take you to the place that inspired Cheers,
right? The real one, right? And Bill Bradford, hey, Bill, appreciate you tuning in. No worries about being late, my friend, but certainly go back and listen to some of the things that Con was very kind to share with us today. And my friend, I knew this was going to be fun. We jumped on a call and tried to. Our very first conversation, everyone. I said, okay, we got to stop because I think this is a show. So, and I just again, I so appreciate learning more about you and your book. Of course, I want to make sure that people understand. You know, we went over a lot of that stuff very quickly, and I don't want to diminish the importance of this book and the work that you put into it. I did that purposely, everybody, because as you saw, we just wanted to have a different kind of conversation. If you go on to Con's website, and I'm going to put that up here right now in a second here, Con. If you go to the website, you're going to see, here we go, Fresh Biz Solutions. There's content there. You'll see other podcasts that Con has been on. The book is there. I think that's the thing that I really wanted to make sure everyone understood, that what we were trying to talk about today was the book, 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis, and with your co-author of
Dr. 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis. Yes.
Beautiful. I wanted to make sure we get a plug in there for him as well, because that's where I met you guys on Clubhouse. And you know, again, it is a guide. What I love about it, again, it's a practical guide to dealing with everything that we've been dealing with, and other things in your life as well. What I love about it, again, Con, is that there's a practicality to it. Like it's very simply, and then of course there's some exercises where you can just jump in and do it. And again, you can sit down in a couple hours and read that straight out. Everybody, it's one of those kinds of books. So appreciate that. I didn't want to diminish the idea that we weren't talking a whole bunch about the book, and but I knew it was going to be a great conversation, my friend, and I so appreciate you taking the time to do it.
Well, you make it easy. You make it very easy.
Well, I appreciate that. And that voice, by the way, I get comments on my voice every now and then, which it's funny how you don't hear yourself. You can only hear, you know what I mean? People go, "Hey, I like what you're," and I listen to you and I was like, what is that? That guy needs his own show. That guy needs definitely a podcast at the very least. But hey, I love that you got a rock star voice as well, and you got a rock star heart, man. I appreciate all that you shared with us today, and all the best to you and your family as we move forward. And good luck with the book. I hope the book keeps finding its way into the right hands. And some of the things you shared today will help somebody down that path. Just what we're talking about, reaching more people and making a difference and so on. So super appreciate you being here. And hey, I'll tell you what I'll do. I seem to emphasize kindness today. I mean, I have a couple things we can end on. You mentioned Richard Branson. I could show you a video about Richard Branson, but I wanted to end it on kindness today. Because I was emphasizing kindness today. So I'm going to play a video with this little ball in it from a trip that I made. And it was a real cool act of kindness. This little kid was helping me out how to learn a language throughout the day. And I gave him something. And 10 minutes later, 15, he came back and gave me this. And he wanted to share his kindness with me. And I just thought, I was just overwhelmed with it. I'm very cool in the video, mind you, but as soon as the video stopped, I was a little emotional because I was like, he was so, he was just, he was just trying to be kind, and he was kind. He wasn't trying, he was. And I must say, I don't know about you, Con, but man, when someone shows me kindness, I'm an empath. I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed with when people show me kindness. So we'll end it on that. I'll show that. Thank you, fine sir. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a joy. It's been fun. It's been a little emotional at times, but you know what? We were alive and live.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, thanks everyone for hanging in there. We super appreciate you being here. And as I always say, as I try to say, everyone, hey, just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. We'll see you on the other side, Con. Everybody else, listen, take care of yourself. Be kind out there. Let's go to this video clip. So I found a new friend, and we traded a pen for this soccer ball. And I thought it was really nice because I just gave him the pen because he'd been helping me throughout the day to learn 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵. And he's a very smart boy, knows English very well. Very good English. Yes. So I gave him a pen, which they love pens, and 10-15 minutes later he came back and gave me a ball for the trade. So I just thought that was really, really cool because I didn't ask for it. So 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵. Yeah, pita. Yeah, so he gave me that, so I'm really, really happy about that, and I'll be bringing this back to Canada. And yeah, I thought it was awesome. He's a really, really, really clever kid. He's going to be an English teacher. Professor. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.